Hey, it's Nikki. Before we start the show, I wanted to invite you to download a free resource that I put together for you as the listener. This is my gift to you. You can get it right now. It is the 17 buying signals. Now, I wrote a whole book about buying signals, and I wanted to put it into a really simple format that you can have at your fingertips or in front of you whenever you want to. So I took out the 17 buying signals from the book, put them on a simple PDF, also gave you the kind of what to do when you get a buying signal, and explain what a buying signal is. So that PDF is available for you as a listener to go and download right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/17. That's yoursalesmaven.com/17 so that you can start acting on these buying signals and closing more business. All right, when you're ready, let's start the show.
Are you ready to boost your confidence when selling so you're able to close more deals? Nikki Roush will show you how to build a foundation of skills and a mindset that creates sales success without feeling pushy or salesy and without fear of rejection. She is a sales strategist and coach with more than 25 years of sales experience and is master certified in neuro-linguistic programming. This is a radically different approach to selling. It's a no sleaze, no slime, and no stress approach to building your business. This is Sales Maven. Here's Nikki.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Roush, your own personal sales maven, here to offer you tips, techniques, and strategies to master your sales conversations. Today's episode is an on-air coaching call with the amazing Amy Lang. Amy, welcome to the show, friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you as always, and can't wait for help.
Well, tell everybody a little bit about you and about your business so that people who haven't met Amy yet, we've been friends for a long time. We've worked together for a long time. And yeah, I think you are one of the most interesting people I know. So tell everybody about you and your business.
Well, thank you. Yes, and we have been friends for a long time. Mm-hmm. My business is called Birds and Bees and Kids, and I am a sexuality educator, and I help parents talk with kids about the birds and the bees. I don't work with children at all. I only work with adults. And I have been doing this for the last 16 plus years. And I'd been a sexuality educator for a really long time, working with adults and teenagers. And I thought I was going to be amazing when I had a kid at the sex talk, and I was not. I freaked out, and that led me down, totally freaked out actually. And that led me down a path of trying to figuring out, how do we do this? When do we start the conversations? What should they look like? And I also have a background in adult education and group facilitation. So as I was figuring this all out, I realized that I could help other parents. I could combine my favorite thing, teaching adults and talking about sex. And here we are. I also have a podcast called Just Say This, where I answer parents' questions about, the sex talk.
Which I love your format of your podcast, because parents can call a number, leave you a question that you then answer on your podcast. And then I see some of these questions, I feel like, on your social media, where you'll share some of the questions that parents ask you. And some of the stories too. You do get some of the funniest things that kids say when they want to ask their parents about sex. I can't think of one off the top of my, no, I'm not going to try to say any of them, but they always crack me up. Like, you have some of the funniest things. Now, I'm not a parent, but I still love your stuff. And I think I have learned things about sexuality, the sex talk, just by following you and by following your social media. So, and you also have books. You are a published author.
I do. And I have a book for teenagers called Dating Smarts. And I have another book for parents that's called Birds and Bees and Your Kids. And the Birds and Bees and Your Kids book is a book to help you get your feet on the ground and figure out your values and get some tips for having conversations so you feel more comfortable and confident. And that's my first book, but I just am working on my newest book. And over the years, the main thing people ask me is, what do I say? Give me the words. So it's called Just Say This, which is the same title as my podcast. And it's scripts and some tips where I say, this is how you talk about periods. This is how you talk about tampons. And to help parents see that it's not complicated, and just to give them some suggestions. And most of us, we didn't get what we needed when it came to the sex talks, and we don't know how to do this. So my hope is that parents will be able to take this book and use it, but, and this is where my question comes in, but it's not enough. It's just not enough. It's surface stuff. And it's important. It's really important and helpful for sure, but it isn't enough to help parents really, understand how to have the conversations, what they should look like, when they should have them, how to take care of themselves, because sexuality, fraught, right? And so that's what my new book is about. And I'm really, really excited about it because it's a whole lot of it's from my podcast.
Which is so exciting. And I know this book has been in the works for a little while, this scripts, and which is so interesting because, well, interesting to me, but hopefully interesting to other people too. Like, I was so against scripts when I started my business because I really truly believe that it needs to be an authentic conversation when you're selling. And over the years, I found that if I could give people an outline of a script, here's an example of a script, here's what you might say here, here's how you could say it, and here's why these words work, and these ones can, detract from your message, that has become one of the most popular things about what I do, is offering people some script language to get them started. So I'm not surprised at all that your parents are just clamoring for, tell me what's the just say this, right? I love that.
Yeah. And that's what I love about you they're like sentence stems, right? and that having, just working with you over the years, having that makes me feel more confident and comfortable because you're the expert. Nikki says, okay. And then I look at your work and your success and it works. I see that it works. Now I'm not you. So there's a learning curve, but having that really increases my confidence and comfort. And, I think once upon a time you said that you had someone who made an offer, and didn't they read the whole thing? Is that you? They just had it all bulleted out and great. And it worked. Which don't for men necessarily, but the nice thing about kids and scripts is that they don't know what you're up to. They're so self-centered. They might think you sound a little weird, but they're not gonna like a teenager maybe would be like, what are you doing? You sound like you're reading a book. And then you say, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm reading this thing. There we go. You just can't cop to it when you're doing sales because that's weird and not helpful, right? They'd be like, all right, they don't know what they're doing. They can't even talk about their own product, right?
But for you, like you said, like giving them a place to start. And even if you are reading a script, it still does allow for conversation to happen, right? Because there's going to be questions, or there's going to be some dialogue that happens with the parent and the child. So I think this is really, really important. I also want to ask you about ways that parents work with you. So talk to us a little bit about what's the format. If a parent is like, I need a little bit more help, Amy, how can I get more from you?
I have a couple of individual offerings. The first one is I do quickies for people, which are half an hour deep dive. They come to me with one issue and I help them with that. They're really great for both of us. And I learn a ton from parents asking me questions. They don't, it's all a variety pack. And that's one way. But the other way that I think is more helpful is I have an online solution. It's called the Birds and Bees Solution Center. And it has 95% of what people need to get their boots on the ground. It's videos and downloads and curated stuff for kids. And what happens in the Solution Center is this is where parents really learn, how do I have these conversations? What should they look like? What words should I use? How do I prepare myself for this? How do I get over myself? How do I gain comfort and confidence? When should I start the conversations? And the main top, like the first 4 videos are class, and you have work to do, because this is about values. It's about, helping yourself recover from stuff. It's about figuring out how you want to have these conversations. What are your beliefs? And when parents focus on that, that's the thing that gives them roots. They get that, and the roots make you feel better. You feel confident, you feel more comfortable. And then there are other videos on porn exposure and puberty and talking to boys, talking to girls, talking about gender, learning about all these different more specific areas of sexuality. And that is the place to go get it done, really get it done.
Yeah. I love your Solution Center. I remember when you were first putting it together, because it's been a few years now that you've had it. And I know that there is a myriad of content in there for people. And remind me the payment structure of how that works, because I think in my mind, I know what it is, but I don't want to say it if that's not true on air. So tell me how that works for parents. Because if you're somebody who's listening right now and like, I need some help with the sex talk, I need Amy Lang in my life. Chances are, if you have kids, you need Amy Lang in your life. So how does the Solution Center work?
It's $69 a year. And I did math. I have a business coach, and we talk about this a lot. It's 19 cents a day.
19 cents a day to get the answers.
And it's up. I do a hump day half hour once a month where people join me for a mini lesson on something. And then we do open Q&A that gets uploaded. So there's regular new content, and so that's where I am now. So if I do PTA talks all the time.
Yep.
And I do partner webinars with other parent educators. And I always offer a 15% discount, just pot sweetener.
Yeah. It's such a good, of all the things you're going to invest in as a parent, these are some of the more difficult conversations, I would think. So here's the place to go, the Solution Center. We'll give Amy's contact information at the end. And of course, it's in the show notes too. But this is an on-air coaching call for you, friend. So I want to make sure that we get to that. So how can I be of service to you today? What would help you right now as you're growing your business?
Right now, what I'm looking at is figuring out how to drive people encourage people to join. I'm going to Nikki it up.
Okay.
To drive people into the Solution Center, to help them see that this is the place to go. Mm-hmm. I have my podcast, and I talk about it there some. I don't think that I am talking about it in a way that makes people think, oh, okay, podcast is great because I'm answering all these questions. They're getting this information, but I'm not helping them understand that this is just not enough. Mm-hmm. There's that. And then the other piece is that I want to use my new book as a tool to help people understand that, hey, go over here, right? This is going to be helpful, but back to that, 95% of what you need to really do this well. And I am, after all these years with you, I'm always uncomfortable. And I know you hear this over and over and over again. And even though I know this is going to help them, I get that, I get that hiccup, I get weird, I get uncomfortable. And so what I'd like help with is finding, a way to transition. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yep. Well, I think it does. So I'm going to start to answer the question, and then I know you'll tell me if I'm not on track, which is totally fine, so that we can get it on track so it makes sense for you. I have a few things rolling around in my head right now. One is, and I think we talked about this the other day. You and I were on a networking call with our amazing friend, Julie Fry, and we were talking about podcasting. And I mentioned on there about dynamic ads. Do you remember me talking about this? Okay.
Yep.
If you're a listener and you're like, what the heck is Nikki talking about? Dynamic ads. If you have a podcast and you're not using dynamic ads yet, please look into it. Because I think for you, Amy, having some dynamic ads are going to be important. So a dynamic ad, if you haven't heard of what they are before, it's depends on what platform. I use Libsyn, so I can use dynamic ads through Libsyn. It's an extra service that I pay for. And it allows for you to put a pre-roll, post-roll. You could do mid-roll ads. You can target them to specific areas. But the thing that makes them so dynamic, frankly, is that if you record an ad, you can, like a pre-roll ad, you can put that ad into every podcast episode that you've ever recorded and has aired. So if somebody starts at podcast 1 and you happen to be running that particular dynamic ad at that time, they're going to hear that ad. Now, if somebody comes and starts listening to podcast 15 3 months later, you would have a different dynamic ad that's relevant to your business right then, right now. So it's not like you're recording an ad and it lives in that podcast forever. So if you change your business or you change what you're focused on, it's like for you right now, it could be, you could have a dynamic ad that is, I have multiple dynamic ads. By the way, you all heard one probably when you started this podcast, because I run dynamic ads at the beginning. So sometimes it's a call out for something free, like as a download to get them onto my email list. Sometimes it's for a special offer, which happens. Now, I don't know when you're listening to this podcast, so it could be a variety of different things that you heard at the beginning. But for you, Amy, just some things for you to think about around dynamic ads specifically is having one that is to join the list, right? So some type of I know you've got lead magnets and, so you're going to have a lead magnet offer. That's going to be one dynamic ad. And you can, run that as many times as you want. You can put it up there. You can even weight your dynamic ad. So you can say, if somebody listens to, podcast 57, they're going to hear this ad first. But if they immediately listen to 58, they're going to hear a different ad. So there's all this stuff that you can do with it. But you do want to have one that's always driving people to join your email list, because your podcast listeners are your best potential clients, because they've already said, there's some part of them that has already said, I'm so in to you, Amy. I'm so in on what you're doing. And many of them are going to want more, but we don't know what their convincer strategy is, right? So convincer strategy is a certain number of times people will say no before they'll say yes. And we don't know what people's convincer strategies are. So we have to continue to put things in front of them so they can continue to say, not yet, not yet, not yet. Okay, now, right? And we just want to have the okay now thing for them when they're ready. So even though, like, I have a resource page for my listeners and it has multiple resources, you'll never hear a dynamic ad from me that drives people to the resource page for all the things. I'm going to do one call out. So right now, like we have in the resource page, there's the 17 buying signals list. And I actually give that. So my dynamic ad is for the 17 buying signals. It's very specific to somebody who's like, I want to know what those buying signals are. How do I go and get that? And then, we have a link that we can also track, that we can tell when people come from the podcast as a listener, and sign up for that. Now they're on the email list. Now you have an opportunity to make an offer to them. Okay. And then one of the things that you might think about doing is, if you're going to run a podcast episode and it's maybe you're answering some questions around something that you have a deeper dive training in the center. Now my brain just went completely blank on what you call it again. Tell me.
Solution.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
So close. It's all right.
The Solution Center. You might even pull a really short snippet of it, and you could give that for free to your listeners, but they have to go and sign up to get it. And then that page that you took them to could have that piece of that video, right? Mm-hmm. And then depending on what your system is, and where you're hosting that, it could be that they can see everything else that's on there, but it's all grayed out. And then there's an offer for them to join the Solution Center at this like special rate that's for your podcast listeners.
Okay. Yeah, I like this. And yeah, when we talked about that, I wrote that down.
Yeah. I think that'll make a difference for you.
And so here's a question. I have made offers. For example, if you use code BLAH, you can access the Solution Center for $7.50 a month forever. Mm-hmm. $15 a month forever. Or it was $69 a one-time payment. So there are other offers in there. It doesn't matter. I would just ignore and run your dynamic ads and not try to go back and edit your existing content because that's too much work. No, that's not happening. Yeah. But forward, moving. So I like this variety pack because I have 7 steps to make the talks rock. Okay. That sounds easy.
Yeah.
Done. Offering the Solution Center at a special podcast rate. I think that would probably work. And, one of the things I was thinking about doing for the book launch is to do a private party, which will be live with me for my podcast listeners where nobody else is invited. It's just them, which that would be that. Would that be a dynamic ad?
Sure would be. Absolutely. It would be. So you can run it for however long you want, and then you can have it essentially like expire. And then we always have like another ad that will take its place. Like I just ran, just so you guys know, Amy and I are recording this in December, and I just had a promotion that ran through Friday of last week. We're now Monday. So Friday at 11:59, that goes away. So when the new podcast launches, like Sunday night, Monday morning, depending on when it gets up onto Apple, we just revert back to one of our pre-recorded dynamic ads. Like we wait, we haven't done this one in a while, so we're going to do this one. Like I think I have right now 3 or 4 that we rotate through all the time. And then I just add in these promotions and things that are going on. So they're already recorded. They're just ready to go. And we do pre-roll and I do some post-roll. We haven't done a ton of mid-roll yet, but because it's a little bit more work on the team's part to put in a mid-roll. Although once we do the work, they only have to do it one time and then it's ready to go and it's easy. And I always label my ads. So I know like, oh, this is a pre-roll ad. So it's me saying like, okay, now I'll start the show. Whereas a post-roll ad, I'll say, thanks for listening, like that kind of stuff. But other than that, it's kind of the same thing. It's just the same content.
Okay. Hey, I like this. I think it's a really good idea. And especially coming up with the book, which I want people to buy the book and I want to see that it's not enough, which I don't know that I can do both of those things at the same time in this with the pre-roll, but I think this is great. So I will go and with the, what's it called? Look at us, dynamic ads. This could really increase my list and my listenership has stalled out. So this also might be a really good, hey, go listen because you get this thing.
So you could also you could definitely be driving your email list to go and listen and say, next week on the podcast, there's going to be a special offer for listeners only. So you're definitely going to want to listen to next week's podcast. and then you could send a reminder, hey, special offer for listeners, go check out the podcast. Here's the link, right? You can drive back and forth both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a substantial list. I know, you have a substantial list size over the years, but you've built this incredible business. So yeah, let's get your listeners engaged with the podcast, which also now makes me want to know, how often are you emailing your list about the podcast?
Wait, excellent question. I have, I'm stuck in that space of where I don't want to overwhelm my people.
Okay.
And then I have all these people who are constantly emailing me, and I just delete, right? My fellow parent educators, I have a couple of them that email once a week, sometimes twice a week. And I should unsub, but I don't even read them. And I think, oh, here you are again. And what I'm doing, initially I did once a week. And then now I do a roundup at the end of the month. And I haven't, so it's all 4 or 5 episodes with, like, this is what it was, with what I talked, and the links to and then the links to, they're all on my blog now. I don't blog anymore. It's just my page. I need to work that out. I need a page for my podcast, Solo Land. So I've been doing that. But part of the reason is I don't get ahead too far. Right now I'm 3 episodes ahead. Mm-hmm. And so to make the email and have it ready to go is more than I am capable of right now, but that will change. And I can see how I need to get over that.
You do. I mean that with a lot of love. And I feel like a lot of listeners out there are feeling the same way. Like, I'm afraid of emailing my list too much because I feel like other people email me too much. But the fact of the matter is, the people who you feel like email you too much, it's probably because you're not going to buy from them, right? You're not going to buy from your fellow parent educators. So that's why their emails feel like a lot. And then the other thing is, the people who you really like, you'll give them grace, even if you're not going to read their emails. I mean, I don't know, Amy, but I'm suspecting that you probably ignore a lot of my emails because I send a lot of emails, but you haven't unsubscribed from my list.
No, because I open your podcast emails.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff there for me. Yeah. I don't necessarily listen to your podcast because I am in true crime land right now. And yeah.
I love that about you.
And I'm stuck. I keep thinking I should listen to can't, whatever reason. So I do, and I notice your offerings, and I pay attention to that. And for me, it's bandwidth, and I completely trust you. So anything I've ever done with you, I absolutely get high value. Like the Sales Maven Society, when you do our weekly, every other weekly, Q&A events are so helpful. So now I'm having another thought. So one of the things that I am, I don't know how much time we have, but I could talk to you forever.
Well, I could talk to you forever too. Let's see where you want to go with this, and then we'll see.
And maybe it's just a down the road kind of thing, but I do want to have a more robust offer, just in the sense of more help. The Solution Center is really self-driven,
self-paced. Yeah.
Self-paced, get in there and get what you want. And then what I want to do is have an offer that is more of I think we said like master class or something like that, where parents can really get it, like get the stuff, meet with me, whatever that looks like, in a smaller group, but not 300 people, because it's hard to learn like that, and it's unwieldy. And 30 people, 20 people, X number of sessions, and just thinking about, and this is helpful to me because this is something I could just podcast listeners only.
Yeah.
Right. You get a deal. If you're a podcast listener, you get a deal for this. And if you're a newsletter, reader, and this is offered to you as well. I'm just thinking about that. I need to use my podcast to get more business.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Was that your question about the bigger offer?
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. I love the idea of you having kind of a different level, because some people will just never join anything that's self-paced because it's not enough for them. That's not their learning style. They want more from you, but maybe hiring you for a quickie, your 30-minute quickie is probably, again, it's just not quite enough. And they maybe want a little bit of community as well. And that's one of the advantages of a group program. So I love the idea of you offering this. Now, one of the things I have found with the Sales Maven Society, I always say the Sales Maven Society for me is like a foundation piece. I have people that are in the Sales Maven Society and that's enough. And they are super happy with that. That's all they need. Great. You have people in your solution center where that's enough. That's all they need. They're great. They're happy. Super. And then there's the people who will pop out that will want more. But if you're never offering them more, if they never know how to get the more, they'll never, what are they supposed to do? Every once in a while, 1 out of 100 people will be like, hey, Amy, have you ever thought about offering a blah, 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 right? But most people will just think, oh, well, it's not available, so I'm not going to think about asking for it. So I love the idea of you putting this offer out, and your solution center members, the people who are doing these reoccurring, $69 a year, they've already said hey, I'm in. And some of them do want more right now. So let's put an offer in front of them to get more. And it's not only to get more Amy, I mean, they're going to do it initially because they want more Amy in their life, right? They need that. But also, you want to be building a community piece of it so that you're not always doing the heavy lifting. And because a lot of times, once they're in there and they feel like there's this community piece to it, I'm not alone. There's other parents that I can also turn to. Yes, Amy is the expert, but there's these other parents in here facing some of these same challenges and will celebrate my wins with me and will also mourn my losses with me too. Then that creates a whole, that almost becomes a thing on itself, in itself, right? So yes, to having this bigger offer, yes, to putting it out right now. I if you're ready, I would put out an offer and I would test it. Now, the way I would test it, I always like to do a beta round test. And for me, a beta round test means I'm going to hand select the people I invite to it. So you could go through your list of people that are in the solution center that show up to your calls, that come to the, what did you call it? The hump day?
It's a hump day half hour.
A hump day half hour. So clever in your naming. So a hump day half hour. I love that hump day can mean a lot of different things. There's a sexual connotation to it, but then there's also the mid-month thing and mid-week thing. And I love it. I think it's you're so clever. Okay. So people who come to that might be the people I would start with a personal invitation.
Okay.
To join this group and then figure out, I always like to do a good, better, best. For me, when I'm selling something for the first time, I do this every time I sell anything. Yeah. I will have my what's my good? So for you, what's the minimum number of people that you need for this to go, for you to go, okay, it's worth it to commit to these 12 weeks or however long you're going to do it. And then what's my better? I'm going to feel really good when I get this many people. And my best is this is a home run and I'm not going to let more than 30 people in. Right. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to launch it and maybe you say, I'm going to launch it maybe with 10 to 15, I don't know, I'm just making up a number for you. Then you probably need to do personal invitations. I'm just going to use the word 10 or the number 10 because math, it's easy for me. And I'm going to say you're going to need to invite a minimum of 30 people to get your 10. Personal invitation from Amy Lang.
Okay.
It could be in the form of a little short video that you shoot for them. I do this every once in a while where I'll send people a voice message because I actually hate video. So I know that's like the worst. I feel like I'm saying something like I'm saying a bad thing when I say I hate video, but it's actually true. I hate watching people on video and I hate watching me on video. So video is just not my favorite thing. So I would rather actually get somebody to send me like a voice message versus a video message. I'll listen to anyway, that's just me. So sometimes I'll just send people an audio message. They're super easy to send. You can attach them in an email and invite them like this. You would be an ideal person for this. And here's why, here's what you're going to get out of it. This is a, first time I'm doing it. So this is a special invitation. It's for you only. Here's how to join. Details are in the email below. Come hang out with us. I feel like there's going to be a ton of value. You're going to get more out of it than I can even possibly put in this email. Come hang out with us.
And would you give a discount?
I like that. So I would say the standard rate is going to be this. And for people who are joining for the first round are getting this special rate. And I would give your beta rate for it. Now, don't do something that you're going to like later go, I can't believe I'm doing this for $10. Like, I don't mean a $10 offer, right? Because this is a higher value offer. Yep. There needs to be some higher value to it, but also think like, what do you really want to charge for it? Mm-hmm. That's what you're going to tell people is going to be the rate. And then here's the special offer for you to join.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like what ultimately should it be? Yeah, no, this is really good. All right. I have one more thing and maybe you probably want to be done with me.
Never.
I get like with pricing, I get hung up on, I'm going to reach a certain socioeconomic group with this.
Yep.
And I always have I want to reach more people, and it seems kind of unfair that these folks at this higher socioeconomic level can get this deeper dive. And of course, people can listen to the podcast, they can buy the book, they can poke around in my 400 years of blogging, they can get my newsletter, they can join my webinars that are low cost. And I think that's because I'm a helper before I'm an entrepreneur in some ways.
Yeah. Okay. So could we work out some kind of ahead of time before you get yourself into this, but to give yourself an answer so you'll feel good to move forward with putting this offer out to the market? What if we decide ahead of time that you're going to scholarship in, you're going to have a scholarship spot every time you teach it, at least for now. Yeah. And you're going to offer it to one deserving individual who frankly wants it, needs it, but just absolutely could not swing it.
Okay.
When it comes to the money.
Okay.
And then you want to put some criteria around what are the qualifiers for that scholarship. And then decide who is going to even know that there is a scholarship possibility to it. And maybe there's an application piece and you're going to select from that for the person. And I think about this too, as my pricing is going up, my price went, I did some substantial price increases at the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2020, at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, still getting used to what year it is. And I do think about this because there are people who I know I can help them and I just need access to them so that I can really support them on their journey. And financially, there's that piece of there are people who truly, truly would value it and cannot swing it right now financially. So this is something I'm working on as well, is a scholarship piece, because I do want to be of service. I have a ton of free resources, but you and I both know free resources, it's going to get you somewhere, but it's never going to get you across the finish line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. That's helpful. Yeah. I think for lots of folks, that's one of the things that, right. Especially with someone like me, who's doing this out of my, like, this is what I was put on the planet to do. And it's helping, like, my whole thing is I'm helping children. The parents are the conduit, right? I want to help kids, but I can't, I got the one turning 21 the Wednesday.
Oh my God.
Or Thursday, I don't know what day, the 23rd. And so I have this one person that's been under my direct control, whether he liked it or not. And, I want every child to be whole and healthy and have this, sense of themselves as a sexual person and understand healthy relationships and consent and all the things. And I need their parents on board, or caregivers, or trustworthy adults to help them get there. And I think that, gets not in the way, but it's in there.
Yeah. And I think having some kind of plan around your ability to serve and give back, I think will help you as you continue to move forward. I don't have the answer, but it's something is in works. Like, that is very much in 2021, I made some pretty big commitments to myself to give back. And it started with financial. So I do, financial donations every single month to certain organizations. And that was the start of it. Like, it was just my way of getting started. And I'm still trying to figure out this other piece about not just giving financially, but giving like what my gifts are that I feel like could help more people. Right. So I get that piece of you, and we have to advocate for that part of your business to continue to grow so that you are able to give and serve in a bigger way for all levels. Right. So it's not like we're not trying to punish the people who are like going to pay for it, because they'll find value, right? Like the people who invest in themselves, like I know this to be true in my work. The people who invest in themselves, they don't look back 5 years ago and be like, I'm so glad I gave Nikki all that money. They're like, I'm so glad I learned these skills and look what this has done in my life. So it's really never about me. It's always about what they did for themselves. You cannot take that away from anybody, right? Like that feeling, that confidence that people get from that. So we want to give people the opportunity to have that experience. And we also want to serve the people who will find value in it and aren't quite able to make that kind of commitment or investment. Yeah.
Yeah. And that just reminds me of one thing that I've been thinking and kind of talking about now is this idea of parent-led sex ed. So I teach you, and I mean, you are a trustworthy auntie, right? So you learn from me, and then you can, maybe not best example because auntie, but a parent learns this stuff, and then they can say to their friend, hey, just learned that, one thing you should do before you, go in for a hug with a kid is to ask first, because it teaches them body boundaries and gives them agency. And so this idea of parent-led sex ed is helping me, like with these folks who have more ability, whatever, to pay for this. I'm encouraging them to just tell your friend.
Yes.
Your sibling, just give them a little nugget. You don't have to say, go see Amy, just a little nugget. Right. And that pushes them forward, and it's empowering because they are getting this education, and most people like to help.
We sure do. I feel like it's part of the human experience. I think so. Yes. And That's a brilliant way that you just described it. So giving the skill set to the people who will then go on and share it. Right. I know that in my work too. Like I actually do have people that come and say like, I taught my kid the NLP mandala, or I taught my husband this, this technique that you taught me, Nikki, and he's using it with his whole sales. I actually just had this happen. Somebody was like, he's using it with his whole sales team. Awesome. That's awesome. Right. That's making a difference in somebody's life who then goes out and makes a difference. Right. It's the ripple effect or the butterfly effect or whatever you call it. So yes, you're doing that and remembering that too. So, okay. So I'm excited about dynamic ads for you. I'm really excited about you being more strategic around this next offer for people. And then we didn't get in too much around the book and moving people from the book to that into the, see, now it's gone again. The solution. Thank you. I don't know why I'm struggling with the word solution today. So, and then driving people into the solution center. We didn't get into that too much, but I would really like to dig into that with you. So I'm going to encourage you to come to the live call tomorrow with the Sales Maven Society.
Well, I have to timing, but yes.
Okay. Yeah. That would be because I want to dig into that. I have some answers for you around that.
Okay. 4 hours later on the podcast.
I know we're getting a little long. So, okay. As we wrap up today, I have 2 more questions for you. One is, what's one benefit you've received from being in the Sales Maven Society? Because you've been a member now for quite a while.
Oh, that's such a good question. I think the biggest thing for me is the access to you. And that's just knowing that you're there for me and I can hop into the live calls and get on the Facebook page and you're there. And then the other benefit is that I know you'll help me. I trust you. And then honestly, for me, like the Facebook page, when people ask questions, I love going in there and giving advice. And frankly. And I love that because it helps me learn. And, I like to give advice. But I would say that it's absolutely worth the time and the money. And then honestly, just having that connection I feel like I'm just imagining an umbilical cord kind of, which is weird, but hey, sexuality educator. I feel connected to you. And I know when I'm ready for more, I know I'm going to get good, high quality. You always give high quality advice and support. So that really getting to know you, and it really has built so much. I already know you, but it's built so much trust, I think, in terms of your expertise and that kind of thing.
Thank you. We love having you in there and I love your advice. Okay. So for people listening who know they need some Amy Lang in their life, tell people how they can get a hold of you. What's the best way to connect with Amy outside of this podcast?
Well, you're a podcast listener. So I would say go check out my podcast. It's called Just Say This. And people, like you said, they call in, leave me a voicemail. I play it on the air and then I answer it. And it is a hodgepodge of questions. I don't necessarily do themes. Sometimes I do. And it's pretty short. And, someone who has a 5-year-old who hears who's listening, and there's a question from a person who's got a 15-year-old, everybody needs to hear all the things. So I would say podcast listener, podcast.
Yes.
If you really are thinking, okay, I need that more robust support and help, the Solution Center, it's birdsandbeescourse.com. You can go check it all out. But I think those are the best ways. And, I think those are the best ways.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing your question. And for you, the listener, thank you so much for kind of being in the room with us today. I really appreciate you being here. If we haven't connected yet, let's connect on social media. I would love to hear from you. What was your takeaway from today's podcast? That is, nothing tickles me more than hearing from you, your takeaways. So you can find me on Instagram under Sales Maven. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I really don't hang out on Facebook except for in the Sales Maven Society. So come join the Sales Maven Society if you haven't done that yet. We'd love to have you in there with us. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with somebody you know that would benefit from it, and have an amazing rest of your day. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.